FM News Talk 97.1. On demand audio. You're listening to Allman in the Morning. Common Sense Radio.
Good morning, you bunch of drunks.
Michelle Malkin on Mitt Romney.
That somehow Obama is more likable than any Republican, and somehow he is a nice guy. I hate hearing this from Mitt Romney. He's got to get this talking point out of his mouth.
You know, actually, I agree that Obama is not a nice guy. I get that. But I don't want him to be. I don't require Obama to be a nice guy. Why does Obama have to be nice to us? Us conservatives. I don't blame him for being competitive, and he won the election. It's not really worthwhile for us to whine about why Obama not being nice to us, But I don't agree with Michelle Malkin that Romney has been kid glovey with Obama. He's been actually pretty tough on him, I think. I mean, I've been fairly impressed, to tell you the truth, and a little bit surprised. In fact, the latest was Romney being interviewed by Bill Cunningham, and he went after Obama for playing golf all the time.
I must admit, I scratch my head at the capacity of the president to take 4 hours off on such a regular basis to go golfing. I remember how the Democrats used to be so critical of George W. Bush for playing occasional golf. He doesn't begin to play the kind of golf that Barack Obama has, but we don't hear much about that from the mainstream media. I would think you could kind of suck it up for 4 years, particularly when the American people are out of work.
Yeah, I don't see that as too wimpy. That was great. Romney, I think Obama could have sucked it up for 4 years instead of. I like that. So I'm not quite sure that's. I don't think Romney's being too nice. Jimmy Talon, how are you, buddy?
Hey, I'm fine, Jamie. I think the key to understand here, and it's what I would say if I was on Michelle's show. I think you're absolutely right, by the way. But the key to understand here is that the White House wants this election to be about anything but the president's policies and the effect on the economy and on the debt. So they'd love it to be about the president's motives or, anything but that. And so, by saying, look, we're not questioning the president's motives, it's a way of allowing the election to be about what it needs to be about, which is what's happening to Americans. And so that's, I think, the underlying, political reality here, that this needs to be about what's happened to the number of Americans out of work, people who've lost their jobs, lost their homes. That's the big issue.
Yeah, I mean, I think it gives you that kind of room to be able to attack him on the things that are really actually hurting the country. Right. Obama's demeanor or his family or whatever is going on isn't what really is damaging the country right now. It's his philosophy, and so it's not that he's a bad guy. It's that he's terribly wrong.
Yes, and that's because, again, elections are about, or should be about, the substance of what's actually affecting people. I mean, I think you're right. I mean, if people are less concerned about whether in some sense a candidate is a nice or not nice person than what it's doing to them. And, this country is going through a terrible time. I mean, we haven't seen things like this literally since the Depression. With this many people out of work, this many people lost their homes, this many people in poverty, and then the whole debt, which is threatening all of us. And so you're going to see Governor Romney focusing on those things, although I do think it's appropriate to say, in light of the situation the country's in, does the president have to play so much golf? I mean, it's a good point.
Oh, absolutely. And so, and I was using that as an example of how, because I think Michelle, while she's correct about Obama, I think she's being a little too hard on Romney. I don't think Romney's problem has been that he's been particularly too nice to Obama. Every time I hear him talking, he's fairly hardcore about what's going on here.
Yeah, I'd ask the people ought to look at his speech yesterday in Charlotte. We went down to where the president was speaking and where they're going to have the convention, and just took these issues right to him. And that's how campaigns ought to. They ought to be about the big issues, but they ought to be hard-hitting and not personal. And that's who Romney is. And you're just going to see more and more of this, because he really is outraged by what's happening in the country, and the president's just failure to recognize that his own policies have hurt people. I mean, at a certain point, you ought to learn. We should be, Jamie, if you look at past recessions, we should be in a roaring recovery right now. I mean, because we should be producing millions of jobs, and we're burning through these years when we should be in a recovery that's really benefiting people, and people are still hurting. And it's a very dangerous situation for the country, and that's the point that Romney's making.
Jim, somebody had called in earlier and asked me to ask you about the possibility of a guy like Mike Huckabee becoming a running mate to Mitt Romney. What's up?
Well, I think they're going to the campaign or the governor's going to consider a wide range of people, and certainly Governor Huckabee is a substantial political figure, and I think that he's going to be considered and vetted along with a lot of people. I do know that Romney does want somebody who he thinks can be president. I mean, I think that's a sort of a baseline consideration, and then beyond that, I think he's going to work through a lot of different names. Remember, this is something I've got asked about this in the past months, and I always told people you have to be certain you're going to be on the ticket before you start considering who else is going to be on the ticket. So this is a process that's just starting now.
Yeah.
I think it's going to take a little time.
Has he talked to Governor Huckabee about that possibility?
I don't know. I don't know. I don't think he's talked to a wide range of people about that possibility at all. I mean, he talks to Mike Huckabee, but I think it's about other things. So, I mean, he communicates with other leaders in the party on a regular basis, but I doubt that it's been about that.
All right, should be interesting, and I guess you're right. I mean, at some point, you need to actually become the nominee.
Right, right. I mean, all these things are done in the right time. I mean, that's part of what it's just like it's life. You cross the bridge when you come to it, not before. And so I think they're going to take that up now. But I mean, the main thing that he's doing every day is he's bringing up the condition of the country and the fact that we're there because Barack Obama has spent all this money and made the government so much bigger and so much more oppressive that we can't create jobs and we can't do what Americans have done, for generations. Yeah. And that's the reality. And I think the White House knows that, and they want this election to be about anything but that.
And absolutely, that's why they want it to be about silver spoons. Heaven knows. Yeah.
Anything but that. You're going to see them try anything. Ann Romney and whether she stayed at home or not. I mean, anything, because they know that their policies have failed. And they can't say that, but they know it, and that people are hurting as a result.
Jim Talent, freedomsolutions.org. Thanks a lot for being with us as usual, buddy.
Thanks, Jamie.
All right, it's
Bye-bye.
Common Sense Radio.